Everyone wants that dream soulmate connection, and empaths are absolutely no exception to the rule. They crave that deep, world-stopping, once-in-a-lifetime bond, just like anyone else, maybe even more so. But while every ordinary couple has to deal with the usual relationship hurdles like communication slip-ups or minor arguments, empaths face an entirely different, uniquely brutal set of challenges that regular people can't even begin to comprehend. The hard truth is that empaths simply do not love like normal people. They love with a fierce, consuming intensity that defies standard dating rules. And because they love so differently, it means they don't struggle like normal people either. On paper, they are the absolute gold standard of romantic partners, the most compassionate, intensely loyal, and deeply connected individuals you could ever ask to share your life with. Yet despite having all this pure, genuine love to give, their actual romantic histories are almost always a total, chaotic train wreck. They end up heartbroken, exhausted, and deeply misunderstood, wondering why something that feels so right continually goes so incredibly wrong. The destructive pattern starts almost immediately with the very first obstacle. They move way too fast and completely freak people out. When you first start dating an empath, the experience feels utterly thrilling, like a breath of fresh air. They give you their undivided attention, and you feel seen in a way you never have before. But that beautiful thrill quickly morphs into something terrifying. Within just a few casual dates, an empath isn't just getting to know your favorite hobbies. They are reading your entire soul like an open book. Without you saying a single word, they can instantly spot the deep-seated flaws, the dark secrets, and the emotional baggage you've spent years trying to hide from the rest of the world. It feels like they have an unfair backstage pass to your mind. And for most normal people, having their walls torn down that quickly triggers an immediate instinct to run. To make matters worse, empaths don't have an emotional volume knob. They experience every single feeling at maximum wattage. The second they feel a genuine spark or a hint of a soulmate connection, they completely throw the traditional dating rulebook out the window. They don't know how to play cool, they don't understand how to pace themselves, and they refuse to sit around waiting for the socially acceptable right time to express their feelings. Instead, they dive in headfirst with zero hesitation. They will look you dead in the eye and casually confess their undying love or talk about a future together just weeks into knowing you, long before you are even remotely ready to hear it. To an average person who operates on normal emotional timelines, this sudden tidal wave of intensity doesn't feel romantic at all. It feels overwhelming, smothering, and highly unnatural. In fact, it often feels so fast that the other person assumes it must be fake or manipulative, suspecting love bombing instead of genuine affection. The tragic irony is that the empath is being entirely sincere, but their raw, unfiltered honesty acts like a jump scare to a normal partner. As a result, the relationship frequently implodes and ends before it even gets a proper chance to get off the ground, simply because the empath's overwhelming emotional speed scares people away before the first month is even over. If you are dating an empath, you need to buckle up and prepare yourself for severe, unpredictable mood swings that can feel like violent emotional whiplash. One minute they are radiantly happy, laughing, and filling the room with positive energy, and the very next minute they completely shut down, turning deeply depressed, irritable, or anxious. To a normal person looking in from the outside, this sudden shift looks like random craziness, instability, or unprovoked drama, but it is not random at all. This wild roller coaster happens because empaths operate like literal emotional sponges, constantly soaking up every single ounce of energy radiating from their partner. They do not have an energetic filter, which means they cannot help but absorb whatever vibe you bring into the room, whether you realize you are projecting it or not. This becomes a massive problem in daily life when reality sets in. If you come home from a brutal day at work feeling stressed, silently angry, or heavily anxious, you might think you are doing a good job of hiding it behind a fake smile. But the empath doesn't just notice your stress, They absorb it directly into their own nervous system until they are completely overwhelmed by a toxic weight they didn't create. Because this emotional overload hits them so fast and so hard, they lose the ability to process it logically. That heavy negative energy builds up inside them like a pressure cooker until it finally explodes and gets redirected right back at you. Before you even realize what is happening, a perfectly peaceful evening turns into an intense, chaotic blame game. You find yourself under attack, arguing over a dark mood that wasn't even theirs to begin with, completely oblivious to the fact that they are simply reflecting your own buried stress back in your face. This constant emotional mirroring ties directly into the next major hurdle. An empath has absolutely zero tolerance for inconsistency. Empaths do not just prefer honesty in a relationship, they demand an absolute, flawless alignment between your spoken words and your actual underlying energy. If your behavior, your tone of voice, or your silent energy shifts even a fraction of an inch away from what you are actively saying, they will instantly pick up on the mismatch. An average partner might let a small contradiction slide or give you the benefit of the doubt when you say, "I'm fine," while looking annoyed. An empath, however, cannot let it go because they can literally feel the friction of your hidden truth. To them, a hidden truth feels exactly like an intentional, malicious lie, and they will call you out on it the exact second they sense it. This level of constant hyper-vigilant scanning completely wrecks standard relationship trust and makes normal partners feel like they are living under a microscope. You can never let your guard down or just have a bad day without it being analyzed. If an empath catches you being inconsistent, they will not wait for a good time to talk. They will confront you on the spot, demanding total transparency. They possess an uncanny ability to back you into an emotional corner, and depending on how fiercely they press you for the truth, a minor, everyday mismatch can instantly escalate into an explosive argument. What should have been a simple, forgettable misunderstanding quickly spirals into a major relationship-ending breakup because the average person simply cannot handle the exhausting pressure of being exposed 24/7. Once an empath makes up their mind to commit to you, they are locked in for the long haul, entirely willing to ride things out until the absolute bitter end. They utterly despise the idea of quitting, breaking up, or walking away to get a divorce, stubbornly refusing to throw in the towel, even when the relationship transforms into a completely toxic nightmare. This dangerous loyalty isn't because they are stupid, clueless, or incredibly naive to the red flags waving right in front of their faces. Instead, it happens because empaths possess a highly dangerous, almost intoxicating ability to see the deep, hidden potential buried inside of people. When they look at you, they don't focus on who you actually are in the present moment with all your bad habits and destructive behaviors. Instead, they lock their eyes onto the idealized version of who you could become if you just had enough love and support to heal. This hyper-focus on your potential turns the empath into a tragic martyr who will willingly, repeatedly sacrifice their own mental health, inner peace, and personal happiness just to hold a broken relationship together. They view your emotional baggage as a puzzle they are uniquely qualified to solve, believing that if they just love you hard enough, they can fix you. This mindset creates a massive, suffocating trap for the empath, especially when they end up marrying emotionally cold, narcissistic, or distant partners. These parasitic partners quickly realize that the empath's boundaries are incredibly fluid, so they happily take every ounce of love, energy, and validation the empath has to offer, while giving absolutely nothing back in return. The empath will keep pouring from an empty cup, draining their own soul to keep a sinking ship afloat, completely blind to the fact that they are drowning in a one-sided relationship that is actively destroying them. This severe emotional depletion ties directly into the next major hurdle, the empath's absolute, non-negotiable need to completely zone out and isolate themselves from the world. On a regular day, an empath can easily be the most incredibly attentive, deeply affectionate, and fiercely romantic partner on the face of the earth. They are wired to tune into your needs, anticipate your desires, and they will do absolutely anything within their power to make you feel loved, safe, and happy. But you have to understand that this level of intense, deep emotional giving requires a massive, uninterrupted energy recharge. When an empath finally hits their energetic limit, which happens inevitably because they are constantly absorbing the heavy noise and stress of the world around them, they have to shut down completely. They need to slip into total isolation, sit in absolute silence, and completely zone out to process everything they've taken in. If a partner does not understand this psychological survival mechanism and takes this sudden withdrawal personally, things go downhill fast. The moment an insecure or demanding partner starts chasing the empath for attention, texting them nonstop, or demanding to know what's wrong during this critical recharge phase, the empath's internal pressure cooker boils over. You cannot force an empath to interact, converse, or be emotionally available when their battery is sitting at 0%. If you push them past their breaking point, you will instantly trigger a moody, incredibly resentful, and cold monster. The sheer exhaustion turns their usual kindness into sharp defense mechanisms. Suddenly, a perfectly normal minor craving for a little bit of personal space explodes into an ugly, chaotic, and resentful fight, simply because the partner couldn't let them sit in silence and heal. This brings us to what is undoubtedly the absolute darkest curse of being an empath. They constantly, almost magnetically, attract broken people who want to be saved rather than loved. Because empaths possess a natural, radiant, healing energy and are incredibly deep listeners, toxic, damaged, and emotionally wounded individuals gravitate toward them like moths to a blazing flame. These broken people can sense from a mile away that an empath has an endless supply of compassion, and they view them as a safe harbor for their own unresolved baggage. Sadly, they don't see the empath as a real, living human being with their own needs and desires. Instead, they view them as a free therapist, a personal life coach, or a convenient spiritual crutch to lean on. They enter the relationship looking for a cure for their pain, completely taking advantage of the empath's inability to turn away someone who is hurting. This sets a highly destructive dynamic in motion right from the start. The empath, driven by their deep urge to help, immediately begins pouring all of their precious time, emotional bandwidth, and healing energy into fixing their partner's shattered life. They stay up all night listening to the problems, making excuses for their bad behavior, and carrying the heavy weight of their partner's trauma. But after months or even years of this exhausting labor, the empath eventually wakes up to a harsh, devastating realization. They are trapped in a completely one-sided restoration project rather than a mutual, loving partnership. They have built a bond entirely based on fixing someone else, and the moment that person either gets better or refuses to change, the relationship collapses because there was never any real, equal love holding it together in the first place. This constant state of emotional exhaustion feeds directly into the final, most unsettling hurdle, the undeniable fact that empaths are literal, walking lie detectors. Almost everyone in the dating world claims they want a deeply authentic relationship built on raw honesty. But the truth is that human beings naturally hide behind small white lies, social masks, and polite pretenses just to get through the day. An empath completely shatters that defense mechanism and makes hiding impossible. They operate like a highly sensitive, inescapable human polygraph test, meaning you cannot fake a smile, disguise your irritation, or pretend that everything is perfectly fine when you are secretly harboring resentment. They don't just hear the words coming out of your mouth, they actively feel the hidden motives and shifting energy underneath them. Living with someone who instantly mirrors your deepest, ugliest, and most uncomfortable truths 24/7 quickly becomes incredibly exhausting for an average partner. It means you can never just have a bad mood in private or use a little white lie to avoid a heavy conversation. Every mask you try to wear is instantly ripped away by the empath's piercing intuition. Eventually, the relationship completely crumbles under this intense pressure, not because of a massive betrayal, but because the partner feels constantly exposed, judged, and fundamentally unable to breathe. They grow to resent the empath's ability to see right through them, choosing to walk away simply because they want to go back to a normal life where they can hide their flaws behind a closed door. At the end of the day, being an empath in a world that thrives on emotional masks and surface-level connections is an exhausting uphill battle. It is a journey filled with deep frustration, heavy heartbreaks, and the constant feeling of being completely misunderstood by the very people you try to love. But despite the chaotic train wrecks and the brutal challenges, your ability to feel deeply and love purely is not a flaw. It is your greatest strength. The key to breaking this painful cycle isn't to stop loving. It's learning how to set fierce boundaries, protect your energy from parasites, and stop trying to fix people who aren't ready to heal. When you finally learn to value your own peace as much as you value others, you will stop attracting projects and finally find the equal, soulful partner you truly deserve. What do you think is the hardest part about being an empath in today's dating world? If any of these 7 points hit a little too close to home, or if you've personally experienced the exhaustion of loving a broken person, please share your thoughts and stories in the comments section down below. We love reading your insights and building a community where deeply sensitive people can finally feel seen and supported. Don't forget to smash that like button if this video brought you some clarity, share it with a friend who needs to hear this truth, and hit subscribe with the notification bell turned on so you never miss our deep dives into psychology and human connections. Thanks for watching, and stay strong out there.